Hi.
If we could start now at 5:31 p.m. So I wanted to welcome Javier. I have not actually had the pleasure to meet him yet. So welcome. We really appreciate you joining Cupop. And if you would like to introduce yourself to all of us, and we'd love it. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Good evening, everyone. I'm Javier Aviles. I'm a husband and a father of two beautiful girls, the oldest of which started Beecher a few weeks ago, so trying to keep up with her. We are relatively new to town. We moved to Woodbridge in 2017. I work as a licensed supervisor for one of the largest brokerage firms on Wall Street, and when I'm not coupopping here, with you all, I serve as an election moderator, and I'm currently training to become deputy registrar of voters for the Republican Party. So I lived in Louisiana, California, Connecticut, and a few places in between. And I'm excited to contribute to this commission in any way I can.
Great. Well, thank you. Welcome. We really appreciate you being here. Um, so moving right along to the minutes, if we could just, did everybody have the opportunity to review the minutes for tonight's meeting? Does anybody have any correction or deletions? If not, if someone would like to make a motion to adopt the minutes.
Nicole, can I vote since I missed the meeting last month? I'm not sure.
Hmm. I don't think you can actually, Patty, because of you
Yeah,
had to be present for the meeting.
I think
Who,
so.
do we have quorum
She
for that?
she can
Leslie
she
was
can
here.
vote. She can vote.
Allison was here and I was. So,
Jeanette's saying I can vote.
She can vote, but she has to abstain when she votes. So
right.
it counts as a quorum vote, but she
Oh,
can't vote in affirmative.
Thank you, Jeanette.
You're welcome.
that works out. Okay.
Yeah. So, sure. Leslie, do you want to make the motion then? Patty, I guess it would. Okay. All right. So, Leslie made the motion. Anyone second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. It was Allison. And any discussion? Okay. All in favor? Aye.
I abstain. Is that how?
Yep.
What's
The
the?
one abstention. Allison, are you yes or no?
Aye.
Okay. So, there are three ayes, one abstention. Okay. Thanks, Jeanette. Um, so I am going to, we do have an issue with the minutes from the June meeting. We did not have quorum last time to be able to vote on those, and those were not placed on the agenda. So those will be placed on next month's agenda to vote on, okay? And Patty, you were there for that meeting, so.
Correct.
Okay.
Thanks.
So I'm going to actually the liaison updates. Robert Clee, he is celebrating the holiday today, so he is with family, not able to be here. And Tim is on vacation, and he did not have any updates. So we can quickly move on to number 5. And we have Jeanette Glixman on tonight. As you all were aware, one of our what was on our to-do list was ADA accessibility at the parks and playgrounds and basically open spaces throughout Woodbridge. And Jeanette was kind enough to go out with me, and we toured all of the different various parks through and playgrounds throughout Woodbridge. And I'm going to turn it over to Jeanette for an update on that project.
Hey everyone. So it was a great meeting that Nicole and I had, and following that meeting, I got in touch with Adam Parsons, who is our parks person here in town, and went over what Nicole and I talked about, which was mostly access for reaching the ball fields. Most of the playgrounds have some accessibility, but the ball fields, if you're a parent or grandparent, even utilizing a wheelchair or a walker, or even a mom with 3 kids and 2 of them are in strollers, to have some ability to get from the parking lot to the bleachers is really important. So, with the federal ARPA funds in mind, I wrote a proposal that I submitted to the Board of Selectmen and Tony Genovese for their review. It's apparently attached to your packets, or it was sent out this afternoon, so you can read it. Basically, Betsy Agla had been working with Adam on um, renovations of the parks themselves and the ball fields with regard to playground equipment and irrigation. We simply took those original ideas and added in the pathways. It is, as you can imagine, extremely expensive to do asphalt or concrete. So we discussed the option of stone dust. It's not as simple as it sounds. It's I believe, a 14-inch trench that's dug with compliance to ADA regulations for width. And they put 1.25 inch stone into that. And on top of the 1.25 inch stone, they put 6 inches of stone dust, which is leveled. I'm sure Patty knows about this stuff with her role as an architect, local firm. So Adam calculated that in the 4 ball fields between West River, Center Field, Pease Road, and Acorn Hill, there would be over 8,000 square feet of walkways. And he calculated that out. I called a local um, paving contractor who we know, um, and was able to get a quote. So we came up with approximately $40,000 for those stone pathways. You'll see in the projection here for playground replacement on 2 of the areas, irrigation system at 2 of the areas, the access pathways, and contingency, because apparently every time you plan something, you can just figure on added costs as soon as you blink. And if anyone's interested, it was the Ladens. Chris Layden used to be our Republican Registrar of Voters, and I worked with her then. And her husband Elmer was happy enough to give us a you know basic estimate on it. So this is submitted. My understanding from Tony Genovese was that open space improvements would be very high on the list for ARPA funding. So we'll hope for a favorable response on this. No telling, because I haven't heard back, but that's all I have on this. Are there questions about these pathways?
Jeanette, it has not been submitted yet to, who is it being submitted to? The Board of Selectmen? What's the process?
So I was told, and maybe Tony knows more about this. I was told that it was on the agenda for the September 14th meeting for proposals. And I've not heard that a decision was reached on these. I do believe all of the proposals. I have another proposal in for the senior center, for another outdoor project for the senior center. All of the proposals, I believe, will go before public meetings, so there can be public input on them, and then a decision by the selectmen. So it's a process. Nothing's being done in the next couple of months, but I would hope that the money would be appropriated before spring. And I would hope that this could be, um, I always have high hopes, but I would hope that it would be something that could be done before the spring season of sports begins. Will it be? talk about the senior center, which had a flood on September 1st, 2021, and began renovation this past week. So, things take time.
Mhm.
And welcome to the new guy in town here, to see how things move. But everybody has to kind of weigh in on it, and the money has to come through, and then the plans have to be made. There's always hurdles to jump. So I won't take any more of your time. I think if there are no more questions, you've heard
Lynette,
enough.
I actually did have a question.
I-
In terms of funding, is that the towns, does the Board of Selectmen decide whether that's, funded or not, or does that have to go somewhere else?
So these are for federal ARPA funds. The town received $2.3 million in federal ARPA funds. A small portion was designated to HVAC at the senior center. And as far as I know, there's still, a couple $1 million more waiting for proper projects to line up. The question is it would not probably be town funds, although Adam, he's terrific. He is using his budget appropriation, his budget appropriation for this year will handle replacement of the bleachers. And there was also, Nicole and I noticed some barriers down at West River. What they are, in fact, is just a piece of fencing on the other side of an opening in the fence. And I found out they were actually not barriers for ADA, means they were created to slow children down who were running for the exits. And there are roads on the other side. So some of them are going to be removed just in Adam's budget. We don't have to worry about that anymore. The one right off the parking lot, but the one right by Bradley Road will probably remain in place because a person being dropped off in a wheelchair can access the field through these pathways from the parking lot, but a child could run out onto Bradley Road back there, and it's a safety concern. So we sort of have to weigh, what's best for the community as a whole, and I'll leave that to Adam because that's his business. So some of this is actually being done, some of the projects, but the things you see in your attachment are new ideas. Allison, did you have a question as well?
Yes, I did. I just had a quick question. So given the material choice that we're quoting and planning to work with, what is there a regular or routine maintenance because it isn't pavement or cement that would have to then be funded later down the road?
Yeah, excellent question, Allison. Cement would have been preferable. Hugely expensive, and it's just beyond our capability. Think of the cornfield pathways when you think of what will be there. So very firm, no growth on them. Will there be weeds encroaching from the sides? Absolutely. And Adam is aware of this, which is why he wanted cement. But that was just not something that we could do. It was, just beyond our scope. So yes, Allison, there will be maintenance, but it is routine maintenance that the mowers will take care of when they do these fields anyway.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jeanette.
You're welcome. Leslie?
Just a fast one. With what are you replacing the benches, or not the benches, the bleachers? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's just it's not in my purview. That's something in Adam's budget. And if you want more information on that, I can certainly reach out to him, or you guys can. But I'm sure he does this from time to time on every field. He just, old bent metal gets replaced with new unbent metal.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking of that just in terms of duration of or longevity.
Yeah.
So we don't have to maintain them.
Yeah, that's, he doesn't replace them unless he has to. So I'm quite sure Adam is well versed on what lasts the longest for the amount
Yeah.
of money that he can spend. He's quite good at his job.
Thank you.
And before you go, Jeanette, Tony, was that on the agenda for the September meeting for the Board of Selectmen or not? Do you know the answer to that? You're still on mute, Tony. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I do not know if it was on the agenda. I could look because the minutes, I don't know if the minutes were prepared yet, but I did not create the agenda, so I'm just not familiar with all the details on it.
Do you need any action from Cupop to have it placed on the agenda if it has not been placed yet? Or is it sufficient that proposal was submitted by Jeanette for the board to consider with all the other proposals?
I'm sure that Jeanette's memo, I see her memo is
Mhm.
appropriate. I just don't, and if, I guess you spoke with Jerry about putting it on the agenda, Jeanette?
So no, Tony gave me the deadline for the Friday before the meeting to get it in the packet. So I know it went out to the selectmen. I don't know what their action was on it. I do know that Nicole, a email from you to Tony saying that Cupop, if you do endorse this proposal, Cupop endorses this proposal and would like to know what the process is going forward. And I'm sure it's the public meetings and the and a later vote. But I think it can never hurt to have the support of another group. I certainly welcome it,
Okay,
especially
great.
Coupop.
Thank you, Jeanette. I
All
appreciate it.
right. All right. Good night,
Thank
everyone. It
you.
was very nice to see you all.
Good night. Thanks, Jeanette. Thank you for coming on.
Okay. Good night.
Good
Good night.
night. So based on what Jeanette mentioned, we have in the past endorsed proposals that have come before us. However, that would obviously involve someone making a motion and seconding it. And so if anybody would like to do that, we can. If not, we could table it to the next meeting if you like some more time to read the proposal.
I'd like to make a motion to endorse the proposal as laid out by Jeanette Glixman.
I'll
Thank you.
second that.
Thank you, Allison.
You're welcome.
Any discussion? I think we kind of did the discussion before the motion, but if there's any other questions, great. All in favor?
Aye.
That's everyone. Anyone opposed? All right, unanimous. Thank you, everybody.
Could I just ask?
Sure.
Sorry. Oh no. Where's it go?
We can hear you, Tony.
You can? Okay.
Yep.
That's good. Hold on. I don't know. So I just wanted to know who seconded it. Was Allison?
Yes, I'm sorry. Javier made the motion, Allison seconded, and it was unanimous.
Okay. And they endorsed the proposal to use the stone dust, right?
Well, was to endorse, yes,
Present.
Jeanette Glixman's proposal as submitted.
Okay.
And I will follow through with the email regarding the process and report back.
Okay.
All right. So we've jumped around a little bit. Well, that was one of our Coupa projects. Okay. Littering awareness, Red Litter Day with Kathy Barkin. I do not have an update on that. I do apologize. I feel like September just flew right by after school started. So I hopefully will have an update next month regarding that, and perhaps Kathy can join us at that next meeting. See. Then we have, does anybody have any questions about the littering? No, Javier, you are new to this. We did create a Coupop projects list that we are trying to work on certain projects throughout town. Obviously, accessibility was a big one, so that seems to be going the right track. So littering is one of them, as well, as we do have that issue throughout town. And it was our hope that we could create, we do have Red Litter Day, as I think you may be aware if you were living here when we did that and earlier, which Kathy Barkin is very involved in. And I have spoken to Kathy about a couple months ago, and we would like to have those more frequently and to elicit the assistance of not only the people who live in town, but the high school students as well. So it is our hope to have those days consistently throughout the year. So that is on our list. Does anybody have any questions about that?
When we, yeah, Nicole, when we do get to that and scheduling it and putting them up, I would like to put something together and invite the Beecher Green team and the kids that are involved in that.
For
To also
Hillary
get
Drum and
involved.
yep, Hillary. Yep.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. Okay. And I am going to be speaking with Kathy this week, so maybe, I may have some further news. I know we have deadlines for newspapers and newsletters, etc. But if I do hear anything, I will be sure to email the committee and as well as Tony, so everybody is aware. Okay. And I'll let you know, Allison, and so we can contact Hillary and the Green Team as well. They're a great resource.
Perfect.
Then we have the 2014 list of publicly owned properties, and this kind of is a little connection to in-person meetings. So um, we do need to update our list of publicly owned properties. It is my hope that there are not a lot of addition or deletions on that list. I don't believe there are. I did make take a cursory review of all of the properties, and I only believe that there's a few in there that we have to update. But I say that I'm very hesitant in saying that because it could be more work than we are aware of. But this is a project that, look, there is a notebook, and I call it notebook. It's a giant binder, which I think we want eventually to have scanned and placed on our site of all of the deeds of the publicly owned properties in town. Um, and so that may be something that we could elicit the help of an intern from the high school to do who's more savvy in that area and could get some community service hours to do that. And once that entire binder is placed in some type of a document that we can keep online, we can then ensure that everything is updated and complete so that we do have the complete list of publicly owned properties for when I think, what year are they redoing the POCD, Tony? Is it 2024 or 3? Do we know?
I'm not
It's coming
100% certain. It's coming up.
It's coming up. So we need to have an updated list of publicly owned properties attached within that document. The reason why I'm piggybacking on how we're going to start meeting in the future. Obviously we've been meeting via WebEx throughout COVID. COVID is still present. I think, I know people that are still getting COVID at this time. I did ask Tony to review and let me know which commissions and committees are meeting in person and which are not. And I know Recreation, Human Services, Fire Commission, and Board of Selectmen are the only commissions and that are not meeting in person. So I would open this up, and I know I'm jumping around on the agenda, but the reason why I'm bringing this up is because as we start looking at these documents to try to create an updated list of publicly owned properties, is this something that we want to do in person so that we can have the space to spread out and have working meetings, which may be easier in person where we can lay out everything and ensure that we have the proper list. So we'd open that up for any discussion, how people feel about that.
I think that it's in order to be efficient overall, even if it ends up being a mix, but we have to have some meetings that are in person, especially when we're trying to build this database and move forward with that. I think that I'm all for going back to in-person meetings.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Allison.
I think it makes sense to have like the exercise that you just said that we need to do in person to do it in person and not mandate that every meeting be in person because some we can take care of easily this way.
Mhm.
But, you know, for when we have something on the agenda that makes more sense to get together, I think the room is big enough that we could safely sit and work.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
Thank you, Patty.
Question, if we are thinking about any in-person meetings, could we please request that A, masks be worn, and B, could we possibly move the time up? I mean, ahead, because that means also additional time to get to the meeting.
Yes,
Is that
Leslie, actually, we were discussing that new meeting time if we do start meeting in person, to make it 6 p.m. Meeting time, because I know everyone has to travel from
mhm.
work, and I think that's 5:30 is cutting it a little close, with a lot of people who have to travel back home. Tony, we still have the room, correct, for that time if we were to move it up by 6?
Yes,
Okay.
and Nicole, just to piggyback on that, I know I mentioned that the recreation department was looking to use that room at some point following our meeting times. So something to think about is, normally our meetings run to an hour and a half. So, you know, if you think we have meetings longer than that, then I could let them know that that meeting room won't be impossible. But if maybe 7:30 seems reasonable, maybe that it's something that their board asked that I sort of throw out there, because now they're
Mhm.
in this building. They're no longer at Beecher Road School. The recreation department is in town hall as of just the end of August, or the beginning of August.
Well, while I'm of the opinion to not keep you all for hours on end for meetings, the only hesitation I have, Tony, is that if we do have a working meeting, we would decide to limit it to, let's say, an hour and a half from 6 to 7:30, and then pick up where we left off. I don't know what people's thoughts are. My concern is that if we do end up having a project that comes up down the road, and I don't know where this list will take us, that we have to recreate, not recreate, I mean, we're just updating it, it's already there. um is that going to run into rec commission's meeting time potentially in the near future? And then what happens at when that happens? I mean, what happens to that meeting? Does it get postponed? Which I'm sure it doesn't. I mean, what are your thoughts? I'm kind of all over the place with this, so any guidance from anyone else would be great on your thoughts.
Mhm.
Why don't we just, if we have a session where we think we might go over, put the project number one on the agenda, and
Hmm.
then if we don't get to the other things,
Push
um,
that.
yeah, push those so that we can try to make the most of the time together with
Hmm.
whatever we have to do in the same room.
Okay.
It's just an idea.
Yeah, so we could, I mean, Tony, if they understand that if they want to go after us or have their meeting time after us, that their meetings would have to start at 7:30. If they're willing to do that, and that we would be working from 6 to 7:30 with the hope, obviously, that we're out earlier. But as Patty mentioned, if we are working on a project and we are in there until 7:30, then they would just not have access to the room until that time. Would that be an issue?
I will. They said they would entertain the idea of switching their meeting times from 7 to 7:30 to
Hmm.
accommodate whatever your commission needs to do. So I'm sure they'll be agreeable to that. I'll bring it forward to them. I mean, they could find another date if they need to stay at the 7 p.m. time frame.
Okay.
But everyone's comfortable with an hour and a half time allocation from 6 to 7:30.
I think so. I think that would be sufficient time. If necessary, we do have the possibility for special meetings, right, Tony? So if we
Oh
need
yeah.
additional time, then we just add on a special meeting for that month. If we have a deadline for a project such as this list, we could certainly add on a special meeting, I would think, without issue. What about meeting in person? Javier, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm all for in person. So I'm not going to go into it any more than that. So perfectly comfortable with meeting in person. I do have a question
Mhm.
as to the breadth of your list. You mentioned, it's a binder. I'm hoping that as long as we're going through this project of digitizing this, for lack of a better word, that we do it in such a format that it's maybe editable, like a database of some sort. in the future, so we don't have to like recreate this when some other new format
Mhm.
comes out. How many entries, like how many properties do you think, if you had to ballpark it, that we're talking about?
Oh, geez, I have to remember. So it's not as horrible as I'm making it sound. So I don't want to scare you by telling you it's a giant binder of properties. So let me try to best describe this to not make it sound terrible. A previous commission head had created the list is probably, geez, I don't know, Patty, how many pages is the list? And Leslie, maybe 8 pages or something, 10 pages. Is it longer than that?
The old
It's
one?
yeah, the old one. It's about that. I don't have it on me right
I
now,
don't
but
have it with me either. It's in the other room.
Yeah,
yeah,
I
it's
might
it's.
be able to dig it out, but yeah.
Thank you.
Maybe 10 pages? I don't even know if it's that much.
Yeah, and it's and what the reason why the binder is, I keep going like this, but the reason why the binder is so thick is because someone prior to this commission. In fact, I think some may have been on there. Had pulled all of the deeds of the publicly owned properties and put them within this binder. So we now have every single deed associated with the publicly owned properties, which is fantastic. Except that it's in a binder, and so I think that it may just be a situation where we just need, as I indicated, a someone to volunteer and to scan all of the deeds into this database, right? And then, of course, the list could be editable. Editable, let's make a word out. So that we could easily, change what we needed to and delete and put in additions. So I didn't mean to scare you with making you sound like it is thousands of pages of
No,
writing created. It's just everything together.
it's really not that bad. I mean, if I'm looking at the right thing, it's
Yeah.
like 3 pages of small
See?
print.
3 pages of
So,
small print.
yeah,
Yeah,
like this. So it's not
that is,
that
yeah.
that bad, and it's categorized 1, 2,
I
3.
think,
Like,
Patty, weren't there additional things we were given, though, associated with it? Came to maybe a grand total of not even 10 pages?
Right. It's a small document, but very small print.
yeah,
Um,
Yeah.
so if you get a regular print, it'd probably be, it's definitely under 10 pages.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
And it's online. It's in our May packet, May
mhm.
meeting packet.
Right.
If
So
that
if you want to
helps.
review that, Javier, it's in the May meeting packet online, and you could see. We're really not talking about thousands of properties here or anything like that.
It's not
It's
that
just
bad.
a thick binder because all the deeds were pulled for us. And it would be nice to have all of the deeds that are associated with the publicly owned properties in one place, which we do in the binder, but it'd be nicer to have it, digital, so that people can access it. And then so when we make our additions and deletions within that document, we should also be adding in those deeds and deleting those deeds off of the database so we have everything in one place. So it may not be as bad as I think I'm making it sound, but
So the town is not as property rich as we think, right?
right, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
So it won't
That's
be as
right.
bad as I made it sound. I apologize. But that is definitely a project that we do need to get done before the new POCD is created, which is coming up. Where I can't recall the year, but it's coming up. So I'd like to do it sooner than later. Um, so that's one of our projects. So getting back to let me get back to I feel like I'm all over the place tonight. So getting back to in-person meeting, if we were to meet in person, pushing it to 6 p.m. and limiting us from 6 to 7:30 p.m. with the possibility of a special meeting if necessary to complete any projects. Does anybody want to make a motion regarding?
One more thing.
Mhm.
Did we answer the mask question? I'm very uncomfortable with not being with being in a room with other people, and I know you guys are clean and healthy and all that, but I'm very uncomfortable because COVID still exists. And I'm going to say it very quickly. I went to a huge service today, and every single person wore a mask voluntarily, and I felt really safe. I just think it's something we should consider because, contrary to popular belief, it's not over yet. So I don't know how you guys feel, and I just got my vaccination, but I'm still feeling uncomfortable about it.
Mhm.
What do you guys think?
I think the town, as we have waves, the town would put a mandate on
Why not?
in-person meetings and mask mandates, and then they leave it up to the individual. And I think that's pretty much the way the world is working now. That you kind of do what you're comfortable with. So, keeping a 6 foot distance and wearing a mask to protect yourself would be reasonable. I don't know if how the town would handle making a mandate for a specific meeting. I'm not really sure. We've never done that before, but I think everybody's been kind of going along on their own comfort level. Um,
Right, I agree, Patty. I think I don't think we can mandate a mask wearing for one particular commission. The town sets the regulations and guidelines. Of course, Leslie, wear a mask if you don't feel comfortable.
Absolutely.
That's your right to wear a mask, whatever makes you feel comfortable. There are not a lot of us on this commission. I know the room is it's quite large. We typically do not have a lot of the public that does come in for meetings. Perhaps that may change in the future. Um, but we certainly can spread out among the table in that room to keep us as far away as possible, and then everybody wear what makes them feel comfortable to the meeting. So I think at this point, if we want to move about in-person meetings, if someone wants to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve in-person meetings for projects that require us to all be together.
Okay, that was Allison, Tony.
I'll second that.
That was Patty. Okay, any discussion? Although we kind of had discussion, but any other further discussion? Anybody? Okay. All in favor? Okay. Aye. Okay. Is that Was that a yes, Leslie? I don't want to push you into saying
Yeah,
yes. Is
no,
that yes?
I'll do
Okay.
it.
Okay. In the future, also, there may be a possibility, just for Leslie, just for your peace of mind, there may be a possibility. I don't want to get your hopes up that there will be a hybrid version that they're going to be testing out. I was told by Sheila today in town to see if it works. Okay, so I will certainly keep you posted on that. Okay. Sheila was explaining it to me. I think they're going to try it out um maybe this Friday, I think she said. So I will keep you posted on that and let you know. Okay. And then I will certainly pass the information along. All right.
Excuse me, I just want to be sure. So the motion was to approve in-person meetings that require such meetings? Is that sort of, so not all, so I just want to be
For
clear on my motion that was
project.
made.
I'm a motion to approve in-person meetings for projects or agenda items that require us to meet in person.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And so with that said, are we then changing the time? So maybe it's another motion. Are we changing the time of the meeting to 6 o'clock?
Yeah. So let me ask everybody this. So, let me just.
One more thing, I'm sorry. Who, I know you all agreed to that motion, but who seconded that? I didn't catch that.
I think I
That was
did.
Patty.
Patty, okay, thank you. I'm so sorry.
That's
Thanks.
okay. Um, hmm. So we do only want to meet in person then, Alice, so make sure I understand if we're working on a project. But other than that, we're going to be utilizing WebEx. Am I understanding?
I mean, I'm comfortable moving to in-person meetings as a whole.
Mhm.
But I know that, in some circumstances and as we go through winter and I
Mhm.
know that
Mhm.
and not everyone will share that sentiment. So if
Mhm.
we could start with on a case by case basis, particularly when
Mhm.
we're working on going through the deeds and the list of properties, you know, those should be in person. And when there's meetings where we're just talking like this, we could
Mhm.
go to WebEx if necessary.
Okay. So that's that motion then. So we should make a motion to change our meeting time to 6 just across the board so that Recreation Commission, who is going to be moving to in-person meetings, it sounds like will be meeting after us. And they were one of the three that I mentioned earlier that were not meeting in person. So we should move it to 6 o'clock. So if someone would like to make that motion,
I'll make the motion.
that was Patty, Tony. Sorry. Anyone want a second?
I'll
So
second.
wait, let's just be clear on our motion. So the motion will be to change the meeting time to 6 o'clock for in-person meetings and WebEx meetings,
Correct.
right? Okay.
And Javier seconded it. Okay.
Since Laura's not here tonight, and I think she would probably want to have an opinion, how does that work? If there's enough of us here, then she would just comment on the minutes as she gets them and weigh in if she has any questions or
Well, there's a quorum.
There's a quorum.
so. Okay. Okay. I know
Okay,
she had mentioned something about it last time. That's why I'm bringing it up. I remember her wanting to do the WebEx meetings more so than the in-person. So
right. We have quorum. So anything that's voted on today is what's decided as the commission.
Okay.
So any other discussion?
Can you just let us know when you do hear about the hybrid potential?
Sure. Absolutely. Okay. All in favor of changing it to 6 p.m.? Okay.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And that was unanimous. No one is opposing. Okay. So moving along here. Oh my Lord, I just lost my agenda.
invasive, I think, is next. No?
I'm sorry.
Invasives is the next one.
Invasives, yeah.
I'm sorry. What was the next one?
Invasives.
Invasives.
Thank you. Okay. So I plan on speaking with Tony Genovese. I did speak about what the proper procedure would be. As you may recall, and Javier and Allison, for your benefit, I don't recall if Allison, you were on yet when I was discussing this. I did speak with Andy, who is our trail master in town. And he had mentioned his concern as well of the barberries that are growing throughout town, as well as all the trails throughout town as well. And that has been a project of our commission to try to eradicate the barberry in town, which is quite the battle to say the least. So we were looking into different ways that could occur. Some of the trails are publicly owned properties. Some are owned by land trust or has an easement from land trust, conservation, etc. So it's really going to be a group effort. I really do not have an update at this time, but I will speak with Tony Genovese to see what the proper procedure will be if we decide to try to work with the other entities in town to try to start this uphill battle of ridding the town of Barberry as best as we can. Okay. Do you have any questions? I know this is new to you, Javier. So do you have any questions, or Allison?
Well, it's not so new. I'm one of the 5 nerds that watches the Cupop meetings on
Okay.
YouTube. So
All right, so you're good. That's great. We love
after
it.
the last meeting, I had to Google what a barberry looked like, and I'm glad I did because I've seen it in my own yard. So I actually saw it this morning. So yeah, I've been doing a little bit of my own research and totally agree with where you guys are coming from.
Great. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions?
Are we going to do the walkthrough with Andy at some point, or?
Yes. So I have not done the walkthrough yet, Patty. So I did not leave you behind, I promise. So we will at some point. I have to figure out where the starting point is. So I started with having the conversation with Andy first. He had recommended, and if you want to do the walkthrough in the Pease Road area, was where he had suggested would be a good starting point. If you wanted to kind of take a look at that particular area. Because I think as you may recall, obviously we're not going to burn the barberry out of the trails, nor can we use any type of chemicals. So that would really leave us to utilizing machinery if we can get it in there. And I believe from what Andy was telling me that Pease Road may be a good starting point to be able to do something like that. But that's going to involve, different town entities and commissions. So I'm going to start with Tony first and see what he suggests, because it kind of a lot of different a lot of people kind of intersect in this project. So I want to find out what the best, which way to go first. So, but if you want to look at that area, by all means, please do, because that seems like that would be a good starting point
Yep.
from what I was told.
All right.
Nicole,
The town may say something else, but I'm not sure. But yeah,
Nicole, I know that Laura always had her heart and soul into invasive species. I mean, really,
yep.
And I'm wondering if we should at least try to include her to
Oh,
some
of course, of
degree.
course. She actually was one of the ones who wanted to go
Right.
and look at the trail. So absolutely, no one's doing anything without everyone
Okay.
else on this commission. So everybody will be included. This is just a beginning stage of me trying to determine what needs to be done and what the starting point could possibly be. And then everyone on the commission, please help. Okay, on this project. I apologize. My dog is barking in the background. She drives me crazy. Okay, so
And
um,
Nicole, I
yeah,
just want to add for Patty's benefit because she wasn't here last month, was
sure.
that the other spot that Andy had mentioned was the Beecher Road Trail. So he said the
Correct.
Bees Road and the Beecher Road because of their possible easy access for machinery to come in.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. And there's also a Beecher Road committee that I believe was just recently created to address, which Javier, you may be interested to address, the roof and things of that nature. And I believe that may encompass that trail actually behind the school. I forget the
Mm-hmm.
name of it, but it's a loop type of name trail. And so I know that they're,
Krasinski's Loop, I
Is
think.
that good?
that's it. So I believe that that too could also be a good starting point as well, for this project. But again, I need to. That's another committee that would be involved, with trying to get this Barberry situation started.
Mm-hmm.
So
Isn't that also one of the areas that's under consideration now for renovation and redesign anyway? So if
it
they're there, I
is.
mean, it's probably a good idea to maybe time it with that. If
Right. It is. I mean, it's certainly a need of maintenance. I think everyone agrees with that. So
plan.
certainly, yeah, I don't think that this falls under just one commission's responsibility or committee's responsibility because there are so many of us that could potentially be involved and work together. So certainly, as I mentioned, I'll speak with Tony to see what the good starting point would be. There's also a trail committee, as I'm sure a lot of you are aware. So that may be a committee that some of us may want to hop on and listen to the meetings and see what the plans are for some of these trails. And elicit help from the different, land trusts, for example, and entities such as that within town that can assist. But first things first, I need to start with Tony. I already spoke with Andy, and I need to speak with Tony to see how we can get the ball rolling in this regard. Because again, that is Laura's baby, for lack of a better word. She's very been strenuously arguing against having, Barberry in town. So absolutely, that's why we're working on this, and hopefully we can get started. Okay. I'm sorry. One moment. Sorry. Okay. So then we have bases, accessibility. Great. So that's what I have on for the Cupop projects. My report. We've already spoken about in-person meetings. I do not have an update on the Housing Opportunity Study Committee for you this evening. We are a permanent committee, however, I'm sure some of you may have seen that. So we are permanent, and we'll be meeting monthly.
And wasn't it renamed, Nicole?
It was renamed, it was. And so, hopefully, we have, as I believe you may all know, Javier and Allison, I know that you are new. I am on this committee, and our report has already been submitted, and we're one of the few municipalities in the state of Connecticut that completed the affordable housing plan. And so I would like to recognize that. There's plenty of other towns, a majority of actually, that have not. So I'm very proud of the work that we did. It was a lot of work, but we got it done. And any other business or anything that anybody would like to add on for the agenda next meeting time? No? Okay. Dog park update, Leslie.
Okay. Let me get myself on there. All right. Oh, there it is. Okay. So Jeanette has graciously given me a report, and this is the latest. Visitors to and members of the Woodbridge Dog Park are enjoying the newly arrived beautiful fall weather. With the end of the third year of operations inside, it's been 3 years, the board has planned such needed landscaping upgrades. They're into landscaping also right now. The park will close for soil treatment on October 10th and remain closed for a few days. I believe she, when we talked about this before, she said there would be signage letting people know. So if you come there and you're not aware of it, you'll know it's closed for a few days. This will allow the landscaper to treat the soil with lime to increase the alkalinity of the acidic soil. The soil was previously tested at the Connecticut Agricultural Station in New Haven. The soil treatment will be completed ahead of reseeding the grass with a heavy tread product recommended by Adam Parson. There is also a new bench arriving in the small dog park purchased through a donation. Additional trees have been donated for the small dog park to improve the shade on that side and will be planted this fall. There are some aesthetic improvements planned for the large dog park side as well this fall. The first season with water access was a huge success, and that was respectfully submitted by Jeanette.
Great, thank you, Leslie. That water was fantastic to have there now at the dog park. So that was definitely a great addition. Does anybody have any questions regarding the report? Okay. Laura is not here. Does anybody have the update for Laura for the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee? Okay. Our next meeting is.
Excuse me,
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
Nicole, just because I staffed the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee's meeting this last week, just so everybody's aware, they are hosting the second annual Woodbridge Like Me Day
Mhm.
on Sunday, October 9th. Rain date will be Monday, October 10th. So it's from 11 to 2, and they'll have some performances there and a variety of tables and for organizations, and they will also have just a variety of music and some food trucks. So last year's was a success, so they're hoping that this year will be equally as successful.
Thank you, Tony.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate that.
Yep.
So our next meeting is scheduled for October 24th. And I would like to see if we could have that in person so that we can start on this project of the publicly owned property list. Leslie, I will certainly let you know if by October 24th there is that option, the hybrid option. I'll let you know how that works out this week and if that will be a permanent solution for for commission and committee meetings. But I would like to meet in person to start that project um, on that date, which would be at 6 p.m. Tony, because we have a motion indicating that we are to meet in person for projects, we don't need to make a motion to have an in-person meeting on the 24th. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Mhm.
The only thing that I believe I have to do, I just have to think this through, is set a new meeting schedule. So I have to submit to the town clerk, as you know,
Mhm.
which will probably be on maybe next month's agenda or November's agenda if we're meeting in November, the meeting
Mhm.
schedule for the upcoming year. So since the times change, I need to, for freedom of information, I've got to be sure that I advise that the meetings from here on in will go to 6 o'clock. So that's what I will do. And then on the agendas, we have to just be certain to indicate whether it is in person or WebEx. So next month it will be in person. I'll note that, and there will be. Will not schedule any WebEx, meetings for that meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we should have that schedule then. Okay, so okay, I understand what you're saying.
I'll just send it to the town clerk.
Yeah,
I'll
thank
copy you on that.
Okay, great. If there's nothing else, we completed the meeting within an hour, so that's great news. Welcome, Javier. We're very happy to have you. And I will see everyone on Monday, October 24th. And as always, if there's something that you would like me to place on the agenda or a new project, just send me an email, and I will let Tony know, and we create the agenda for next month. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a nice night.
Bye, everyone.
Take care. Good night.
Motion.
Yeah.
Oh, motion to adjourn. I'm sorry.
I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, Javier.
I will second that motion.
That was Allison. Okay, Javier made it. Allison seconded the motion. Good night, everybody.
All
Good
right.
night.
Good night.
Night.